Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, the YouTube channel, and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, RingsideNews.com. WWE Royal Rumble is now 1 week away, live on pay-per-view. NoDQ.com is your source for coverage. Got your questions here from spring.me/AaronRift. So let's get started with the first one today from WWE fan Dark Arrow. Hey Aaron, with Daniel Bryan getting a concussion, where does this put him? Will this kill his momentum? Well, first off, I don't think it will kill his momentum. Depending on the severity of the concussion, it could stall his momentum a little bit. But I think that Daniel Bryan will be back sooner than later. I don't think that this is going to keep him off television for too long, if at all. I mean, he can't wrestle with a concussion, but he could still make an appearance. As far as the Royal Rumble goes, you know, there's the talk. People have been asking me, what if he was planning to win the whole thing? That would force WWE to change plans. I don't think Daniel Bryan was ever planned to win the Royal Rumble, so I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on the storylines. You know, at worst, Bryan will miss the Royal Rumble, but I think that he'll be back in time for whatever WWE has planned going into Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania. So I don't see it being a big deal overall. You know, it's not like Dolph Ziggler or Fandango where, you know, with those guys, their momentum was just completely wiped out with those concussions, and they were never really pushed as hard again after that. So, yeah, I think Daniel Bryan will be okay, and just hope he's able to resume wrestling as soon as possible. All right, this one comes from Shiggy Diggy Bang. What is next for the Wyatt family? I imagine they'll have a role during the Rumble match, but what else could they do after that between now and Mania? That's a good question, and it remains to be seen what direction WWE is going in with the Wyatt family. There was talk a few months ago about Bray Wyatt wrestling John Cena at WrestleMania, so he would have a big marquee match. There's also been the talk about the Wyatt family versus The Shield, which I think they should do, especially with The Shield breaking up. That would be a huge win for the Wyatt family and would establish them as the new top trio in WWE, taking out The Shield, which was previously the top trio in WWE. So that's what I would do if I was making the decision. You know, I don't know about WrestleMania, Wyatt family versus The Shield, but certainly Elimination Chamber, you could do that match and then do a big match with Bray Wyatt, whether it's with John Cena or not, that remains to be seen. But you could do something with Bray Wyatt, and then you can have The Shield in a triple threat at WrestleMania. So that's how I would do it. Don't know if that's how it's going down, but we'll see. Hey Aaron, do you see Magnus going over to WWE at some point? What about Samoa Joe? I've been asked about Samoa Joe time and time again. As much as I would like to see Samoa Joe in WWE, I just don't see it happening. WWE, I've mentioned this before, they're focusing on the guys in NXT and developmental, and they're not really interested in bringing in former or people from TNA. And as far as Magnus goes, you know, he is the top guy in TNA right now, so he's going nowhere. Magnus is going to be in TNA for the foreseeable future. Will WWE eventually bring him in if he becomes a free agent? Once again, I don't know. I mean, Magnus certainly has the size that WWE likes, but he's also a TNA star, and I don't know if they're going to want to bring him in for that very reason. So, you know, it's very much up in the air. But if Magnus really catches fire this year as TNA World Champion, maybe WWE will see him as a hot commodity and want to sign him. You never know. All right, this next one comes from JY619. If the WWE was to have a Brawl for All tournament again, which current WWE wrestlers do you think would be a good fit for it, and who do you think would want to be in it? Well, let me make this clear right now. I think the chances of WWE bringing back the Brawl for All are slim to none. I would say 99.9% chance it's not going to happen. But for fantasy purposes, if WWE was to bring back the Brawl for All, I think you would want to have the obvious guys, the guys that have actual shoot fighting experience. People like Batista, people like Brock Lesnar, people that have a reputation for being tough guys in real life. You would not want to put in guys that don't have the experience, and that was the problem with the first Brawl for All. You had a bunch of guys that were out of their element and not in their comfort zone, and it was a disaster. And the whole point of that Brawl for All tournament was to get Dr. Death Steve Williams over, and he got knocked out by Bart Gunn. So the whole thing was a big flop. So, I mean, that right there is why it's not going to happen again. It's just a bad idea, and it didn't work. All right, this one comes from Live Life Loudly. Hey, Aaron, is it just me, or is Ryback really not that bad in the ring? He moves well for a big guy and can pull off good lifting moves. Do you think fans are wrong in calling him a bad wrestler? I agree with you. I don't think Ryback is that bad, and I think people put him down undeservingly. Ryback has been in some good matches in WWE, believe it or not. And I talked about this with Jeff Meacham when we were doing the videos for the No DQ Year-End Awards. Ryback had a Match of the Year candidate. You go back to TLC in December 2012, that six-man match with The Shield. And Ryback had decent matches with John Cena on pay-per-view. And, on SmackDown a couple months ago, him and John Cena, I thought, had a very good TV match. So when he's in there with the right people, Ryback can hold his own and be in good matches. Yeah, he's not the best wrestler in the world, but I think he's fine. I don't have any major issues with the guy. All right, this one comes from Rob Zito. Speaking of Ryback, hello, Aaron. I have read that Ryback is not happy with his situation in WWE and is planning on quitting or retirement. Do you think that they could have played his heel card and have him be a destructive heel force and utilize him a lot better? Well, I think WWE definitely dropped the ball with Ryback in several ways. The first was during his initial run as a babyface. We talked about this before. How WWE booked themselves into a corner by putting him in a pay-per-view main event with CM Punk at Hell in the Cell, and that ended Ryback's undefeated streak, and he was never really the same after that. And then they turned him into a cowardly heel, and that didn't work. And now, Ryback's going on Twitter, and I think he's just trolling the internet fans, just saying things that he knows will get people talking, and then he deletes his tweets, and it's turning into a storyline now with WWE having him. They're playing up the fact that he was on Twitter and doing all this stuff, and they're acknowledging it. So it looks like it's going to be part of his character now, that he's kind of like a modern day Scott Steiner, this unpredictable big guy that just will say whatever's on his mind, even if no matter how controversial it is. All right, this one comes from Zai Real. Hey, Aaron. So with the events of this week's Raw combined with the growing rumors, I suppose DX will be inducted into the Hall of Fame as heels. There's a first time for everything, right? What are your thoughts on this, and how do you think the live crowd will react? Well, they're not going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame as heels, and Triple H can be a heel on television and be a babyface when it comes to the Hall of Fame induction. And, you look at the network. I mean, Triple H came out with Shawn Michaels in the DX gear, and they were just acting like total babyfaces. So I would think the same thing would happen if and when they go into the Hall of Fame. WWE doesn't really care that Triple H is a heel on television. They're going to do what they're going to do, and when they're DX, they're going to be the good guys, and the crowd's going to cheer them, and that's the way it's going to be. So it doesn't really matter that DX is going into the Hall of Fame when Triple H is portraying this evil heel boss on television. All right, this one comes from Baller W Shades. Seeing as the WWE inducts wrestlers into the Hall of Fame who are simply a comedy act, do you think this gives Santino a good chance of ever being inducted? I hope not. Your thoughts? Well, unfortunately, I think the odds are quite good of Santino going into the Hall of Fame one day. WWE loves the Santino character, and they put him on TV all the time, even though I think the character ran its course years ago. But they continue to put him in the documentaries, and he has his own video on WWE.com and the YouTube channel. So yeah, would not surprise me at all to see him go in the Hall of Fame. And I kind of think of him as like a modern day Coco Beware, even though Coco was more serious, but kind of like this cartoonish lower card babyface character that everybody loves, and that's how WWE sees Santino. So yeah, I mean, I think the odds are fairly good that one day he will go in. Not a big fan of it, but I would not be surprised. All right, last question here. So Ric Flair is a 22-time world champion, or is he a 16-time world champion? I keep reading everywhere that he has 22 world titles to his name. Which of the 22 titles make up his 16? Please answer in video. Well, I'm not going to go over every single title reign. The bottom line is WWE does not officially recognize several of the title reigns. There were a couple in the 80s with the NWA. I think there was one with Harley Race that the NWA did not officially recognize. And then there was the one in 91. And then I think in 94 there were two more where there was a unification match with Sting, and that's not acknowledged as a title reign. And then with him and Steamboat, that was also not acknowledged. So, several of them, were just stricken from the record books, and it's 16 that WWE officially recognizes. I think WCW recognized 14 title reigns, and they didn't include the 2 WWE title reigns, so that's how you get the 16. Alright, that'll do it for this edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/NoDQ_DOTCOM. And Facebook is the same thing, facebook.com/NoDQ_DOTCOM. You can add me on my personal account, facebook.com/AaronRift, and get a good look at the beard because this might be the last time you see it. It is actually a playoff beard for my wife. She is a huge 49ers fan, so we'll see what happens. If the 49ers lose on Sunday, the beard will be gone. So some of you will be happy about that. Anyways, I will see you guys next time. Maybe with a beard, maybe without the beard. Time will tell. Thanks for watching.